Hey,
Alrighty.
hey, is this thing on? Is this thing on?
Hello? Hello?
Hey, 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 it's Dalton Ruer. How are you today?
Oh, hey, Dalton. I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. Are you on that Technology Alliance's partner team with that Dork guy?
I am, yes. The guy with the big green bow tie,
Yeah,
right?
I've been trying to call him, but after the last time we talked, he doesn't seem to be returning my calls for some reason.
Well, he may be on a boat in the middle of the Caribbean. He does like his cruises, you know.
He likes to cruise. Yeah, I thought maybe I offended him. He offered me some Mountain Dew when I was in his data cathedral last week, and I ended up taking a 12 pack with me because I thought he's offering. I love Mountain Dew, so I took some with me, and he just doesn't seem to be taking my calls anymore.
Well, I just think the cell service is really poor out there in the middle of
Is
the
that what
Bahamas.
it is?
So yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I can understand that. Well, hey man, how do you like my office, by the way? I just got a promotion after I talked to him last time.
It's a lot bigger than mine. Apparently, I need to ask some questions of my management.
Yeah, that it was great. We had a great conversation. I had just taken a new gig. I was just like a little guy on the bottom of the corporate ladder. Came into an environment with lots of clicks and stuff going on. We had QVDs everywhere, and ClickDork was able to help me understand it. And once I got it, and I stole some of his PowerPoint images that he gave me, I've created my own presentation. And now, dude, I got a corner office, and I'm like the architect in the company.
And that sounds fantastic. My dog's very excited about it. And so, what can I help you with, oh master of all things data related?
Well, I'm glad you're there. I've got an issue. He got me straightened away. We got everything good. We understand our environment. We're loving what we're doing, but he kind of alluded to something that kind of threw me. And I ended up calling my Amazon representative for help. They just laughed on the phone. He mentioned that we should write these parquet files that we started doing. And we just put
Hmm.
those in our environment and everything was fine. And then he shared that we should extend those. So I reached out and asked for, some buckets of S3s, and they just laughed at me for some reason.
Right. Yeah, yeah. So I think I understand what happened, and that is something that we set up here on our side for him to have leverage. So AWS wouldn't know anything about it. That's not their thing. They're just there to provide the service. We're the ones that actually did the work. So how much do you know? What do you know about what an S3 bucket is?
Uh, An S3 bucket, I thought it was a bucket of S3s.
Okay, all right. So let me help you out a little bit here and
Okay.
explain some things. So first of all, S3 bucket's just a file folder, just like you have on your Mac or your Windows machine where you store some data. It just happens to be in the cloud and it's secured and you got to have a token and a key and some other things like that, but it's just a place you store files.
Oh gosh, I feel so silly. No wonder they laughed at me then. If I'd have known what the right thing was, I probably would have Googled. So if I get one of these S3 buckets set up and I start putting these parquet files there, like what good would that do me?
So do you know what a parquet file is?
I saw him write that. I know what butter is, but I really wasn't
Uh,
sure how close parquet was to butter.
Yeah, I can't believe it's not butter. So in that scenario, it's actually just a file type.
Okay.
So, we talked a little bit about click and click sense and QVDs he'd mentioned, and that doesn't mean a lot to me. So maybe you tell me what that is, and I'll kind of tell you how Parquet relates to that.
Okay, so the QVDs, as I understand it from him, and I put on my architecture slides and got me the corner office as the architect now. We're Click virtual data warehouse tables, and we do a lot of movement, and we're creating these files all over the place.
Okay, so they're just files. So it sounds like, and it's now coming back to me, these Parquet files were just the output from these click apps. I now remember what he was
Yep.
saying. And so we're just writing those outputs of those QVDs as Parquet files in S3 buckets. So just storing that data inside of that click cloud, now it's being stored externally in an S3 bucket that we manage here as our corporate S3 bucket entity. So it's
Oh my
publicly
gosh.
accessible to those that have the right credentials.
That makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense. Well, I appreciate your time. There's one more thing. I mean, this is crazy. That Click Dork guy, sometimes his writing fools me. He talks about crazy stuff. He seemed to be talking about, like, I don't know, going on the Titanic to find icebergs again or something. Like that really
Okay,
lost me.
okay. Probably not related to his cruise, so I could see the confusion. So, a little bit about these Parquet files. So, Parquet files are actually compressed data files that have some interesting technology that make them really good for analytics and reading and writing data. Now, those are then controlled by this new thing called Iceberg. And Iceberg
Okay.
is this open standard that everybody is using now. And it really is for an open ecosystem of data framework where you're managing one set of files with what's called an open catalog on top of it, and that everybody can use it, whether Click's using it, whether Snowflake's using it, whether AWS is using it. Everybody can use the same thing once in multiple situations. And so that's kind of the whole thing behind this Iceberg thing.
Hmm.
So, it's interesting you mentioned that because we've done some work getting that set up in Snowflake off of that Click Sense data. Does that sound familiar?
No way. Click Dork went and did something like that when I wasn't looking. Oh man, that guy's a champ.
Yeah, so let me show you what we've got going on here, and this might actually this because you're probably familiar with the data. I'm not. I'm just familiar with the technology, but I think we'll all come together and be able to take advantage of it.
Ooh, I like
So
it. I like it.
so that content that was created in ClickSense was saved
Yep.
out in those Parquet files and is now being managed by what's called AWS Glue, not real glue. You can't stick two things together with it,
And
but
not
what it is,
surgical glue,
not surgical glue,
but
but
my data was about surgery.
your data was about surgery and it's managed by this now open Iceberg catalog, which allows us to then take that and create a Snowflake external table on and consume it in Snowflake just like it's a regular table, except it's being managed on in AWS by this glue catalog on these Parquet files that we'd created, and it's managing all the change history and all the deltas, and we can use time travel and all kinds of other really interesting technologies. But it's one set of data that is now consumable via this Snowflake because, as you know, Snowflake is our enterprise data strategy.
Yeah, man. Oh my gosh. Dave, I think I'm going to get an even bigger office soon because
Oh man,
man,
that's
my
impressive.
boss's boss's boss, his boss's boss's boss, his neighbor's cousin's best friend's sister is all about open ecosystems. And if I can share this data that way, man, I'm going to be like the center of our company's universe then, because everybody is going to need it, not just my Click developers. And that's going to be great. I'm going to love that power, that prestige, maybe even get some awards. I need more monitors. I don't have enough
Yeah,
monitors
I
yet.
can I can see you've clearly used your expense budget for monitors exceptionally well looking at your background.
So once this data is shared, how would we be able to actually get to it then? And even more importantly, man, what's in it for me?
Gotcha.
Like, it's
So
great
great
that other
question.
people can use the data, but man, I work like 10, 15 minutes a day architecting and moving data, and I'm going to need another promotion. Like, I'm not going to be happy in this office forever. It's only been a week. What would I be able to do to take advantage of this?
Excellent question. So this is how we set the table up. Let's talk about what it actually looks like when we use it. If you can see down here, it looks just like that format that we'd be familiar with in that ClickSense QVD format, except
Dude,
we're running it through Snowflake.
dude, that's crazy. Like in his post, and then I ended up building a health mart. And then I started realizing that, man, I could just like resave that file with a different name, or I could do it by hour, I could do it by day of the week. And I see that it like keeps the file name so that if I were reading this, I would know which file these particular values actually happen to come from.
And that's the power of Iceberg is it manages the history, what data is valid now, what data was valid in the past, and I can slide back and forth in time and look at that. But I never have to worry about, like in the old days, I got to go grab file one and file two and file three and file four and then stack them all together. And no, now I just query the catalog, and the catalog manages. It's called a manifest. It manages all of the stuff underneath of it. It's super easy to use. And again, I just treat it like any table, and the rest is magic.
That's incredible. And it looks like he had me do like a whole mart instead of just writing separate files. And it looks like it just buries the encounters right inside of my main table. And is that JSON stuff?
Exactly. So it's great because it's embedded JSON, which means we can query it as it is using Snowflake functions, or we can pass it into generative AI. In fact, I think I have a copy of that query that he was testing out. I didn't know what it meant, but let me go ahead and paste this. This might mean more to you since this is what you're actually working on. Let me go ahead and run this because again, I understand the tech behind it, but you're going to tell me how this thing got applied here. So
Well, dude,
this query here,
yep.
what it's doing is it's taken this comment, and I think it's healthcare data, it looks like, and it's passing it into this uh, generative AI engine called Snowflake Cortex under the covers. And at runtime, it's looking at each row of this information of this data that came out of ClickSense, and it's doing some sort of scoring for us. Now, I don't understand what an emotional dyad is. Uh, sounds intense, uh, but I can tell you that we're then, what Cortex is doing is it's taking the commentary with some additional questioning content, and then it's returning us back a set of how the data gets bucketed, and then what we should be able to take action on it with. And that's as far as I know, right? We helped kind of construct this, but this might make more sense to you to explain.
Oh my gosh, this is crazy. So here's the problem we've had forever. We run these surveys to our patients. We get hundreds of thousands of them. They give us lots of rankings, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. They're not allowed to give us an 11, although I think some of our surgeons deserve 11. And we get those and we aggregate them, we give them averages, and then we show a KPI dashboard that says, look, our sentiment is 6.7, and nobody in the audience jumps up or down or celebrates. They're like, I have no idea how to get to, 7 or 8 or 9 or 10 and improve. We don't know what it is that we're doing wrong if we're not getting a good score. And the comments, man, we got hundreds of thousands of these, Dave. There's no way we can read them all and pay enough people to read them to act on. But this is I need to grasp this. It looks like they're taking our raw comments and passing it to, you called it Cortex,
That's correct.
and he's basically just, it looks like they're saying just take these comments and create primary emotional dyads. And what that is, I know for some other research into this, um, you're able to take the raw words instead of having like 60,000 different words that different patients used, roll those things up into these emotion categories, and I would be able to present these in a word cloud then, Dave.
Hmm.
And I love this kind of thing because, man, if I could show like somebody like you trust and disappointment, it might move you to get up out of your chair and go do something. And the way he then just says, "Hey, give me some actions to take." This is really, really cool because then I can present these things as, "Hey, if we're consistently not doing these, here's what actions we should do to make it more consistent for improvement." And we got to pat people on the back, at other times. We can't just be smacking them in the head all the time. So I love this way that I would be able to visualize this in a word cloud to draw emotion from the people I'm telling the story to. And man, dude, that corner office is mine. Like, yeah, this is this is really cool stuff. Now, what are these crazy characters he's got wrapped around there? Is that more of that JSON stuff?
Correct. It's coming back essentially as a text block. So these LLMs read and write in this is the format that they read and write in. But my understanding is I think you can parse that with click and turn it into whatever you need to. I'm not a click guy. I'm just the snowflake and the back end guy. But
So this is
um,
crazy. So we could be feeding our data out to these Parquet files that goes through Glue, gets into Iceberg. Snowflake then can read this stuff, could do this analysis, this heavy duty generative AI with that, what is that, a Claude 3.5 sonnet thingamajiggy? You know,
yeah, don't worry. But it's just the type of model we use. We can
okay,
choose
yeah,
any number of ones that we like.
and there's other ones like that then? Cool.
There's thousands of them, it feels like at this point.
And
But
so we could run that data and I could just bring this back into Click.
exactly, just put
Dude,
this, you could put these responses, they're just fields. They can be put
yep.
into your data pipelines and be consumed by Click or really any other method as well, because it's just a Snowflake query.
Man, the world's getting cold, Dave. The world is getting cold. We got snowflakes and icebergs, man.
I tell you,
This is crazy
yeah.
stuff. Hey, I hate to be rude. I do appreciate all your time, man, but I got a new job I got to go get. I got to impress my boss, their wife's cousin, sister's brother's best friend, and I'm definitely getting like 8 or 9 more monitors for my office, and
Well, if you
probably
have one that you're not using, send it to me. I can put on cat videos for my dog back here.
well, you tell that ClickDark guy I'm going to get a Mountain Dew dispenser in my new office after I talk to all these people. Dude, I thank you so much. This really makes my day.
Awesome. Well, take care and just reach out if you need me again.